Heart stuff's been part of my life, like my whole life. When I was 6 months old, I was diagnosed with a hole in my heart and a bicuspid aortic valve. And so basically the day after I was diagnosed, I was in the Royal Children's Hospital having surgery. This is all according to Mum and Dad, of course. And so I have had this scar as long as I remember, and I have always been going to cardiologists, and that's been part of my life. 4 years ago, give or take, had open heart surgery again, this time to repair the bung valve, and also had an aortic graft at the same time. I'm fortunate that it never really impacted my life. It never really stopped me doing anything. I remember going to the hospital for checkups when I was little, and then the checkups weren't very frequent. I went in once every 5 years for a checkup, so it was really not didn't stop me doing anything until 5 or 6 years ago when they picked up that I had aortic dilation around my bung valve, and then that had to be monitored. So I was, had more regular checkups and scans about yearly for a while, until it got to the point that it was time that needed to be fixed. So I went from heart stuff just being in the background to being very much in the foreground again.
I wasn't born with a heart condition. I was diagnosed with a murmur when I was 2 years old, and the doctor at the time told my mum that it would be something I'd grow out of. By the time I was 4, I was diagnosed with complete heart block. And what that means is that the signals from my brain to my heart to beat on time just kind of get a bit scrambled somewhere. So by the time I was 6, I needed to treat it with a pacemaker. So I had my first pacemaker inserted when I was 6. I've had a subsequent pacemaker surgery, and I've got one coming up again this year. So obviously my first surgery was inserting the pacemaker and trying to treat the condition. My second surgery happened when I was 14 years old, and for some reason my pacemaker failed and we didn't get any warning about it. It just sort of stopped, and it was only that I went in for a routine checkup that we realised it wasn't working. So that sort of meant emergency surgery. So that was pretty stressful, just to sort of get in there and figure out what was going on. My surgery that's coming up this year is a bit stressful for me because I think it's not emergency surgery, and it's something I'm planning for. And I think that means that there is a lot of anxiety about what my life will be like during that period of time of recovery. I'm having a scar put in a new place. I've got a pacemaker that's no longer going to be in my abdomen, but it's going to be sort of up here in the top of my left shoulder, and I've been told that it may be visible. So I think that brings a lot of sort of body image issues to mind. And I think as well, sort of I've been told that I'll feel a little bit different with this new pacemaker because it's dual chamber and not just single chamber, and it will be on the inside of my heart as opposed to be, shocking my heart from the outside.
One day, a couple of years ago, just completely out of the blue, I had a cardiac arrest in a public place, supermarket. That was significant in itself, but then it's like because there was no known reason, it was a bit of a trial and error with medications, and I had to have the defibrillator put in. Life went on, and I just kept getting rounds of shocks, and I was conscious for them, which, every time you get a shock, they look at it and think, what's going on? And then they sort of kept increasing the shock zone, and I was still awake for all of them. So I had one round in, about a few months after the arrest itself, and I got another couple of shocks when I was at work, and then that was into hospital and didn't come out for a while they just did lots of tests and ended up getting a couple of ablations done. That was, a couple of years ago, finished that, and haven't had any issues since then.
I don't really have many recollections before surgery. I was 4.5 when I had my first surgery, so the whole experience is really something that's on their shoulders, not mine. I was born with a tetralogy of Fallot, and I had a pulmonary valve replacement 4 years ago. The effects on me as a child weren't too great, primarily because I didn't have any physical limitations. The lead up to my second surgery was I think over the years, I have my annual tests and checkups with a cardiologist, ultrasounds and things like that. And every time I'd go to an appointment, the results would be different. They would increase the chances of me needing a second surgery until we got to the point where, yes, you will definitely need a second surgery for a valve replacement, and we'd like to do this before you have children. So at that point in time, I had almost resigned to the fact that I would need another open heart surgery. I was still devastated because someone had told me finally without, skirting around the issue.
Well, you weren't the only one who was... because the impression we had all the way along is that you probably wouldn't need it, actually.
Sometimes I just can't quite believe I've navigated everything we've had to navigate over the last few years with heart stuff. It's been part of my life as long as I can remember, and it will continue to be part of my life. There will never come a time where I don't see a cardiologist, and that's okay. That's just what I need to do to stay healthy and make sure everything's working as it should, and it's just part of my life.